We're back, ladies and gentlemen, with the 11th Lineal Justin and Tyler Movie Awards, the Movie Awards for 2024, and we are officially entering our People section of the 2024 awards. This is where we give awards to our top 3 actors, actresses, and directors for 2024, alongside 3 honorable mentions in each category. This video is going to deal with the folks behind the camera first, and that is our best directors of 2024. Again, each of us has 3 honorable mentions, and then we will give our number 3, number 2, and number 1 best directors of 2024. So I'm going to go ahead and kick things off with my 3 selections for honorable mentions for Best Directors of 2024. Those are Robert Eggers for Nosferatu, Christian Sparks for The King Tide, and Cameron and Colin Cairns for Late Night with the Devil. So Robert Eggers, obviously we've talked about on this show many times in the past. Robert Eggers has a very kind of distinctive and very stylish visual style, which the method by which I watched Nosferatu didn't exactly lean into the greatness of the visual stylings all that much, but you know that it's there, because you know what Robert Eggers has produced in the past with movies like The Northman, and I mean he's got a track record of visually really excellent movies, and I really enjoyed Nosferatu. I really enjoyed the vibe of Nosferatu, and the fact that, like, again, you're talking about remaking a movie that's almost 100 years old, but they didn't feel any push to kind of modernize the way the story was told. It was still told, like, it was still very, like, Victorian style dialogue, and tried to stay, like, as authentic to kind of the way they told the story in the original. Still, obviously, with Robert Eggers' flair, but I really enjoyed the way that he kind of presented Nosferatu. With Christian Sparks for The King Tide, again, The King Tide, the final movie that I saw down at this theater before they closed it, FU Cineplex. Always got to put that in there. I really thought that he achieved something special with this really kind of like isolationist little piece of Canadian cinema, where you feel the constant, like, claustrophobia almost of this little community and how it guards itself and guards the secret. The way that Christian Sparks kind of presents this as almost like a utopian little community, but that the underpinnings of it is that this community is, like, kind of hanging on by threads, by, like, basically a single thread, that once that gets cut, the whole thing just turns dystopian and starts falling apart. I just thought the way that he told that story and the way he presented that community was really something that I wasn't expecting, and was something that was pretty special. In terms of Cameron and Colin Cairns for Late Night with the Devil, the whole vibe of that movie, immediately I was just like, instant yes. Yeah. This movie is made for me. He gets one of, I think, the better performances of the year out of David Dastmalchian, who has always been good, but has never really been kind of featured in that way. And it's like, oh man, like, this is like nigh on kind of a star-making performance for him. And again, just making that movie look authentic to kind of the time period that it's supposed to be set in, and, you know, all those little, like, kind of single shot gimmicks and things like that you use to make it look like it's all just kind of happening in real time. I always dig when a director can, and a creative team can do that really well. So that's why those 3 are my honorable mentions: Robert Eggers, Christian Sparks, and the team of Cameron and Colin Cairns.
I even think I said this in my Nosferatu review. You'd have to be an idiot to not think that his movies aren't visually stunning.
Right.
They just are.
Exactly.
Like, you may not like them, or you may love them, or whatever, but it's hard to not see them and go, beautiful. I considered... Well, I guess I sort of considered Eggers, because I always do, but he didn't make it this year. Mm-hmm. I did consider Christian Sparks. Had to make that cut, unfortunately. I don't really got much to add there. It's just beautifully photographs the scenery, but in like a menacing way too. So I really like that. I didn't give enough love to the director for Late Night with the Devil, although if you saw the mid-years you realize I really, really dug that movie. But I probably should have had... I don't know that they would have made it, but I definitely should have considered them. And I guess... But I also lost everything, so it's kind of like... I might have had them, I don't remember.
Right,
but,
fair enough.
So I had to go over one day and be like, crap. And so, that's why I make notes. So I don't have to go like the end of the year or late in the year and try to remember, was this really good? Was this performance really good? But yeah, no, I think your picks are great, even as the honorable mentions. I think they're fantastic.
Beautiful.
All right, so my honorable mentions are Greg Jardin for It's What's Inside, Jade Bartlett for Miller's Girl, and the last one is Luca Guadagnino for Challengers. Actually, I forgot that was only an honorable mention.
Wow. Because if I remember correctly, Luca Guadagnino was your number one at the mid-year.
Yeah, he was.
Wow.
I mean, to be fair, he's still basically number 4.
Right.
Because I actually ordered the honorable mentions. It's What's Inside was confusing since it's a body swapping movie that has like 5 to 10 people in it, so it's just like, it's kind of nuts. But he navigates the confusion with a very distinct visual style, like even with the colors and like split screens and just and the editing is really good in this. That's obviously not directing, but we don't have best editing, so we kind of put everything in under director, because the director probably had a hand in, the editing process. So I won't spend too much time. Like, I didn't absolutely adore that movie, but it was good, and I'm glad people were really saying it was an underrated movie this year. I was like, screw it, I like body swap and stuff.
Yeah.
Jade Bartlett for Miller's Girl, an unbelievably pretentious movie, but I like that she leans into it visually with this like gothic atmosphere, where the type of movie that people would read Finnegan's Wake for fun, and like you can see that on the screen, like visually, like this, just some great shots and great performances, just oozes atmosphere. It's for people who say literature instead of books, that kind of thing, right?
Yep.
And I love it. Like, that won't always work. But in the context of this movie, I thought it was really well done. People don't like that movie. But we can separate, because it's really for the subject matter. That's like all it really is. We can separate the subject matter from the presentation, and the presentation is just astonishingly beautiful. And then old Luca, my buddy, and I say that sarcastically, because I didn't love Call Me By Your Name or Bones and All. I know he's done other stuff, but those are the only 2 I think I've seen. I didn't love them. I thought they were both overrated. I guess I said this. Well, it is militant directing, like Megalopolis. Only this is good.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is so in your face. Like, the camera's going woo, and it's like got these crazy shots, and this Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross. I almost said Finch again, because I almost always say Finch.
Almost always, yeah.
Just pounding. It's like the stuff that we criticized previous movies like The Crow and Megalopolis for, but done well. Like, you cannot miss that this guy's like fingers are in there, because it blends the visual style and the music and gets great performances, and just I really like this movie, and I didn't expect to really like this movie, and a large part of it is because Guadagnino made it really interesting to just experience, like, take the narrative out even, and just experience in that way, and then, we'll get more into Challengers later, spoiler, as we will probably most of these things where we mention the director, because it's hard to believe, like, not liking a movie that, like, but it happens.
It does
happen. But yeah, so so those are my 3 honorable mentions.
Tennis. Yes. The Guadagnino one is definitely the surprise of that list, only in the fact that he couldn't hang on to landing in the top 3, which I think will speak to the strength of the top 3 that's about to come, which we will kick off with my number 3, Best Director of 2024, Dev Patel for Monkey Man. And this has held on since early on in the year. Like, I've kind of flip-flopped back and forth on whether I appreciate Patel in this movie more as performer or as director. And I think I landed a little bit more on director because I've seen him be good in movies before. We've never seen him direct before. Right. So the fact that he could pull up something where if you didn't know any better, you'd be like, again, people were talking about it like, is Monkey Man the Indian John Wick? And like to have it even at all be invoked alongside any of the John Wick movies and how good they look and the tone and the style that they bring, to even have that movie be placed alongside them at all in conversation, I think speaks to how talented Patel is behind the camera, and I hope we get to see more opportunities for Patel behind the camera. Don't necessarily know that we'll ever see another Monkey Man. They feel like they kind of told the story there, but maybe they didn't close up all the loose ends.
With the budget, I seem to remember.
I believe so.
You could see a sequel.
You could very well. And again, to have him kind of come out of nowhere from a directorial standpoint, and have a really excellent debut, he holds on to my number 3, and I obviously enjoyed that movie very, very much.
Man, you loving Monkey Man, and normally that would be right up my alley. I liked it. I don't love it. I won't spend, but it wasn't because of like the directing or anything. Right. So that's a cool pick. So you may ask, what beats the artistic achievement challengers with this? I'm giving my number 3 to Damien Leone for Terrifier 3.
Totally credible.
Dude, this guy, like, he was everyone says this, so none of this is original at all for me, but he was given the opportunity to focus on directing, because he had, like, a real team doing the effects, which he didn't really have before. So he could just straight up direct. And man, he used that opportunity really, really well. From the atmospheric shots to really kind of grasping the grossness of some stuff, like Victoria in the gross tub bathroom. Just the shots. I was like, this movie's unbelievably gory, but it's also really pretty and feels a little grittier. I don't know if I said the usage of color, but I feel like I did, but I'm saying it again. If you've watched the video that Terrifier 2, what year was that, 2022 or something? You know I love these movies, especially Terrifier 2. And I'm pretty sure I gave him a nod that year too.
I think so.
And this is a better directorial effort than Terrifier 2.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with that.
Yeah, so I'm okay with him beating Luca Guadagnino, because I actually think Terrifier 3... all the credit it gets is it's disgusting and Art the Clown, and fair enough. But the guy brought his A game. Will he make a prettier movie? I don't know. This is gonna be a tough one to top.
I think it will. My number 2 Best Director of 2024 is Mark Cheslick for Hundreds of Beavers.
I don't know how many times I've heard his name and I forget what he did.
So, the mind that can create something like that is a beautiful one and deserves to be celebrated and recognized. To make that movie with, a shoestring budget of, I think it was like $150,000 or something like that. I think that number sticks out in my head. And to make it, despite the fact that they're just using, giant beaver costumes that look like they were made in somebody's garage, but they have so many of them, and to make a movie under those circumstances actually look as nice as Hundreds of Beavers looks, and how it fits the tone of the movie so perfectly, and clearly somebody that passionately has their like just kind of has their input in every single layer and every single aspect of that film, and to have it come off the way that it came off and to create something so unique in the space, it was undeniable that Cheslick was going to be on this list at some spot, and he is going to fall just short of the top spot and land at number 2.
Yeah, I guess I don't really have much to add. I mean, we're going to be talking about Hundreds of Beavers again. It's just an overabundance of creativity splashed onto the screen.
Right.
And it is a joy to look at.
And just when you think it can't get any stranger, he just turns it into a world map video game.
Yeah.
Like, you just circle these places and accomplish these tasks and do these things.
Great. It's great.
And that's just like, that's such an idea that like you wouldn't necessarily think would be in a movie like that. Like when you're watching John Wick and it goes into the top-down shooter scene, it's like, who would even think to do that?
He's just built different. He's just built different.
He's just built different.
My number 2 is Edward Berger for Conclave.
Ooh, I like this pick a lot.
It's a very serious and solemn movie. Wrestling with very heavy subject matter, and I think the directing really goes along with that and complements it, from the usage of color, like specifically red, and the contrast of it is just beautiful. Like it's simultaneously a movie that is stunningly beautiful, but also just kind of in service of the story rather than just like being overly flashy.
Right.
Like it's there, and you notice it because like if you're walking down a hall and you just see very distinct red, you're like, ooh, this is pretty. And this movie would have been really good even without the directing, but the fact that he went that extra mile and just leaned really into it, kind of in the same way that the director did for like Miller's Girl, though different, entirely different types of movies. But and also just like, you know, performances are a part of good directing.
Yes. And
I think that this movie is loaded with great performances as well. So yeah, Conclave ended up. Yeah, his directing ended up being really, really great.
And you have that contrast in Conclave between, like, when they're sequestered and, like, when they're, like, the scenes when they're, like, in their living quarters. You just have these long, Spartan hallways of nothing. And then you get to the end of the hallway and it's just these vibrant shocks of red.
Love it.
And yeah, it's the contrast between those... the way they employ color in that movie.
The color is arguably the star of that movie.
Absolutely.
For as good as the rest of it is, but we'll get into it.
And like you say, being blessed with a lead actor with the immense talent of a Ralph Fiennes is that's a blessing for any director. But you also have to bring that out of your performers, which he absolutely did. I love that. That's a great pick. That's a pick that I thought that, for me, comes out of left field for you. I didn't expect that was going to be there, but I love that.
I'm curious. Why did you not expect that?
I didn't even know you saw Conclave. I didn't even know that Conclave would be a kind of movie that would appeal to you to watch, even though you watched so obviously so much.
I like heavy religious movies. I often mention them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, it depends, obviously. I'm not talking, like, the overly religious, like those corny ones.
Right.
But these ones that wrestle with the serious heaviness of, like, God and whatnot, I find really intriguing. But that's, that is not really the directing, so we'll cut that here.
Yeah, totally.
I am not going to say it, but I have a feeling I know who this is. Don't want to take it from you, but...
Hey everybody, Denis Villeneuve is really good at directing. like, come on.
Can't even disagree.
Yeah, this is like the most foregone of any foregone conclusion.
The finest Canadian director of all time.
There you go. And created like a magnum opus of the friggin' genre, arguably. Like, I still, again, yes, I've watched this movie 3 or 4 times, but like there's always something new and something gorgeous that you didn't see the first time you watched it, or the first 2 times, or the first 3 times even. Like this, like even performance-wise, you'll see like an extra little turn from a character that you didn't notice before, or something going on in the background, like just things that only happen at the hands of masters of their craft, which regardless of what you feel about Dune Part 2 specifically, I think everyone knows that Denis Villeneuve is a master of his class, and I cannot wait to see what he can do with Dune Messiah, because he said right up front, he said, there won't be a Dune Messiah if I can't make it better than this one.
Fair enough.
And he threw the gauntlet down right away. And then Dune 2 came out, and about 2 weeks later, he was like, there's going to be a treatment for Dune Messiah. So it's like, all right, beautiful. I trust you explicitly and implicitly. Blow me away. And he did with Dune Part 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think I might have given him an honorable mention for Dune Part 1.
I feel like you did.
I considered him like I do anytime. You know my feelings, but I'll say it. Like, I just kind of wish he'd move on from Dune. I know it's his passion project. They're great, whatever. I don't think they're great, but it's not really the directing.
Right.
It's not even. It's not really. It isn't. It isn't the directing for me. Yeah, Villeneuve is just a master. We say this every year, it seems. Even when he hasn't released a movie,
right,
we probably find a way to work him in.
We relate someone else today, so that we can mention his name.
Yeah, I just want him to get back to the other stuff, but soon, he'll make the Dune, and then he'll go do something else, and then I'll probably be. I mean, maybe with even Dune Messiah, maybe I'll be putting him in, because he comes close. I just kind of prioritized movies I liked more, and
of course.
But it is beautiful, so good job. You want to talk about foregone conclusions? Harmony Korine for Aggro Drift. Boring picks. if you know us.
A little bit.
Alright. So I can understand hating this movie. It's essentially, at its core, it's just an assassin redemption story. Mm-hmm. We've had many of them. But none of them have felt like this.
No.
And that's what I liked about it. Was that, like, Korine is not narratively strong because he doesn't care about a narrative, a conventional narrative. Like, Aggro Drift is essentially like a pseudo-documentary, kind of like Gummo is. And you said it, and I don't get it, but it's a vibe. It's the infrared visuals are like a hellscape. Like, don't get it twisted. He's not. It's as unique as he is, and this movie is, and it is the most unique movie I saw all year. He gets good shots. Like, if you look, like when the main character, now I'm forgetting his name, is on his like balcony and he's overlooking, and then that like demon is in the sky. That's a great shot.
Yes.
So he does do that, and really Korine kind of puts more emphasis on visuals and mood anyway in his movies, and I think Aggro Drift is probably him at his most extreme.
Right.
Not his most raw, because like Gummo was his most raw, and like Spring Breakers was probably his most pretty, but this was like almost violent. I mean, and I can even understand somebody not liking the visuals, because it's hard on the eyes a little bit. Like it's like it's. But I love Korine. He's very unique, very creative. He's on his own thing, which eventually he may lose me, but maybe not. Maybe not for directing. Like, maybe I'll hate his movies and just always love his directing. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows with him? That's the thing. So yeah, my number one is Harmony Korine for Aggro Drift.
Yeah, and obviously, I didn't like that movie as much as you did, but the one thing that I can say about it for sure is, like, it was the most unique experience of any film I had this year, period. And that speaks directly to, again, the capital A kind of auteur status that Korine has, and the way that he makes movies in general, and the way that he made this one. It's almost something that I wish I would have gotten to experience on a big screen.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in a theater setting, I feel like this would be like, drop some acid and let's go see this.
Do you know what he was doing during the tour for the movie? He was playing it in strip clubs.
I read that somewhere. Yes.
Which I'm like, okay.
Totally.
Sure.
Hey, that fits.
Very
that fits.
interesting.
That's gonna work. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. To the surprise of no one, Denis Villeneuve and Harmony Korine are #1 best directors of 2024. Again, maybe quote-unquote boring picks, predictable picks perhaps, but we got to be honest to ourselves, and in our opinions, nobody did it better than those two individuals this year in 2024. That is going to close up this video of our best directors of 2024. Up next, we are going to move to the performance side of things with our best actors of 2024. We'll see you around the bend.